So there I was, a 13-year-old kid abandoned by my parents. They disowned me, and as much as it hurt at the time, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. That's when they shipped me off to an elite Swiss boarding school. You see, my parents were abusive. Even though I was surrounded by preppy rich kids and struggling with constant imposter syndrome, it was still better than living at home. I thought I was the only one who felt like an outcast, but 3 months later I met Randy, the person who would end up saving me. He was a boy with a homemade haircut, a beat-up backpack, and a heart of gold. As soon as he walked into the dining hall, everyone went quiet. I was about to invite him to sit with me and my friends when my roommate, Jake, grabbed my arm and whispered, "Don't." The last scholarship kid we had stole Rolexes and someone's MacBook before getting expelled. I wanted to tell Jake that I knew what it felt like to not belong, but I also remembered how alone I was when I first came. So I just nodded, telling myself, if I had to earn my spot here, so did he. But what they did to Randy over the next few weeks still haunts me. It started small. The library installed a metal detector just for him. The rich kids would spill things on his clothes on purpose, knowing he couldn't afford new ones. And instead of fighting back, Randy did something. Even worse, he was kind. When his mom sent homemade cookies, he shared them with everyone, including the kids who tortured him. He even picked up a $50 bill off the floor and asked who it belonged to. Then came Legacy Week. It's this ridiculous tradition where if your parents went to the school, you can make life miserable for the kids whose parents didn't. I thought I could avoid it by staying in the library, but one night, walking back to my dorm, 3 Legacy kids cornered me. Preston, one of the worst bullies, held up a hot metal school crest, the flame flickering beneath it. "Every non-Legacy needs to know their place," he said, and the others grabbed my arms. Holding me down, I was terrified, but suddenly I heard the fire alarm. The sprinklers came on and everything got soaked. Preston dropped the hot metal and the others ran. I looked up and there was Randy. He had pulled the alarm to save me. We ran out as security rushed in. The next day we were called to the headmaster's office. I walked in thinking Preston would finally pay for what he did, but the headmaster didn't even look at me. He just glared at Randy and said, "Do you have any idea how much damage you've caused?" They tried to blame him for the flooding. Preston whispered something to Randy on the way out that made him freeze, but Randy wouldn't tell me what it was. Things got worse fast. That afternoon, campus security raided Randy's room and found the devil's lettuce in his desk drawer. Without question, Randy was expelled. I found him that night, packing his things into a trash bag, crying. He explained his sister had leukemia and he was supposed to save her, but he couldn't afford the treatment here. And Preston knew everything. That's what he whispered, that his sister would die before Randy could help her. I was furious. I spent almost a year wishing someone would put Preston in his place. But little did I know that someone was going to be me. I started recording everything Preston did, his cruel jokes, his threats, his mocking laughter. I couldn't just sit back and let him get away with it anymore. I sent all the recordings and everything I had to the school board and Randy's family. But nothing happened. The system was rigged. Then one day, Preston cornered me in an empty classroom, showing me security footage of me in the computer lab. He had all my recordings erased from the cloud. But then Sarah, a fellow student whose family worked in diplomacy, found out about the suspension and offered to help. She'd been secretly collecting evidence too. She slipped me a USB drive with everything she had on Preston, recordings of his bullying, texts between him and his cronies, even photos of him near Randy's room the night before the discovery. We knew it wasn't just about Randy, it was about everyone he targeted. The more we gathered, the clearer it became. Preston had been systematically tormenting students, isolating them and destroying their lives. I felt like we were getting closer to taking him down, but Preston was powerful. His father owned half of Switzerland, banking, real estate, you name it. I wasn't sure we could win against that. Then Preston made a mistake. He started dating Emma, my calculus study partner. And suddenly, she was too busy to help me prepare for finals. My special dietary meals started disappearing from the cafeteria, and my food allergies were ignored. All signs that Preston was trying to sabotage. And I kept pushing back. I emailed everything I had, proof, recordings, messages, to the school board. But the IT department suspended my account. I wasn't giving up, though. I gathered evidence from anyone willing to help. We had to be strategic, careful, and make sure we had everything in place before we made our move. Then it happened. Preston tried to plant contraband in my room to frame me, but Marcus had warned me and I had set up a camera. We caught everything on tape. Security couldn't ignore it anymore. The board had no choice but to take action. Preston's father tried to silence me with threats. He said he'd make sure no university would accept me, but it didn't work. More allies came forward. Teachers, students, even staff members who had seen the truth but were afraid to speak out. The truth was spreading. Preston couldn't control the narrative anymore. We had proof. People started speaking out, and the board couldn't turn a blind eye to the systematic abuse any longer. They had no choice but to act. Preston was expelled, and Randy's scholarship was reinstated. His future was saved. But it wasn't just about revenge, it was about justice. It was about showing that the system could be changed. The school, which had tried to break us, was now forced to make real changes. Scholarships were protected. Students had a voice. Legacy traditions were abolished. The most satisfying moment came when Randy, now back at school and accepted into Yale, delivered the salutatorian speech at graduation. His sister was getting the treatment she needed thanks to an anonymous donation from, ironically, Preston's mother. The true irony wasn't lost on anyone. We'd won. Not through cruelty, but through resilience, unity, and justice. And as I walked across the stage to receive my diploma, I thought about that scared 13-year-old who first arrived at the school and that terrified boy who pulled the alarm to save me. We didn't conform to their standards. Instead, we created our own, and we changed everything.